Happy afternoon. I am so excited to have you here today to join our Spatz webinar series. Today we're going to be focused on a webinar catered to dietitians in exploring the medical landscape of minimally invasive treatments for weight loss and also launching our referral program. So to kick things off, I am Christy, the Executive Vice President of Sales with Spatz Medical. And as I'd mentioned, today's conversation is understanding what's available in the minimally invasive weight loss procedures and a dietitian's critical role in the patient's success with those procedures. We'll also explore how you can align your personal businesses and your earning goals with the growing demand. And lastly, I would like to touch on the launch of our Spatz referral program and how partnering with it can help boost your income, attract new patients, and raise awareness. So I'm excited to kick off the webinar as a collaborative session with Caitlin Metz. I'm honored to have her here to share her firsthand experience and expertise on the topic. Caitlin has earned a Bachelor's of Science in Dietetics from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and a Master of Science in Nutrition with a coaching certificate from the University of St. Joseph. She worked and has experience both in inpatient and outpatient settings, focusing on bariatrics at Augusta University Weight Loss Center. And now she provides weight loss education and coaching at the Silhouette Center. So Caitlin, welcome. So to kick things off, I want to go over high level the minimally invasive landscape. And right now that's comprised of three primary treatments. The first is going to be the Intragastric Balloon. And to give you a little bit of history, there are two balloons that are currently FDA approved, and that is Obera, which was FDA approved in 2015, and the Spatz balloon, which recently got their approval in 2021. The assumption behind intragastric balloons is that it takes up space in the stomach and it reduces hunger. While they do definitely reduce hunger, the main mechanism of action is a delayed stomach emptying. And the delay of the gastric emptying results in 60% gastric retention over 2 hours after a meal. So these balloons undeniably reconnect the brain and the stomach. They enhance the feeling of fullness and reduce that hunger, but most importantly, they reestablish the brain-stomach connection. The appeal of this particular procedure as it relates to intragastric balloons is that it's highly effective, quick, it's incision-free, anatomy-sparing, repeatable, and reversible. However, that said, not all balloons are created equal. The innovation of the Spatz balloon is a big one and one to bring home about, as Spatz3 is the only adjustable gastric balloon in the world. And the ability to adjust the fluid in the balloon is an absolute game changer for two main reasons. The first reason is to prevent severe intolerance. So anytime you put an object into the body wants to reject that, and some patients have a severe reaction to that. And if you have, say, a non-adjustable balloon, that balloon would need to be removed for that patient. With the Spatz balloon, we can do a down adjustment and really diminish the effect of that intolerance and then continue them on their course. So that's one of the major improvements and innovations with the adjustability. The second is to combat the diminished balloon effect. No matter what balloon you use, whether it's Spatz or Obera, there is this phenomenon that the body can get used to the balloon being in it, and that delayed stomach emptying starts to slow. Therefore, the patient around month 4 can have a plateau of weight loss, or even in worst case, regain their weight. And this is where the Spatz balloon really shines, because we can go in and do an up adjustment and unlock a second round of weight loss to maximize that patient's weight loss journey. So aside from the innovations of the adjustment, the clinical studies for the balloon, specifically Spatz, are very promising with an 84% success rate, 46% for non-adjustable balloons. But we can get more into that in a moment. The next thing on the landscape is ESG. And ESG is an anatomy-changing procedure. It is very simple in theory. It involves suturing the stomach to reshape it and reduce its size. And the particular procedure is probably the most expensive in regards to minimally invasive options on the market. ESG is highly effective when it's performed correctly. It is an extremely difficult procedure to perform. It's challenging to learn and master due to its technical complexities and has a very steep learning curve. So physicians typically need to perform around 50 to 70 procedures to really become proficient in this. And they have to master it to achieve the best patient outcomes. It requires extensive hands-on experience. And then the last of the minimally invasive portfolio is the weight loss injection, which is probably the most well-known as it's getting the most publicity as kind of the magic weight loss injection for a lot of people today. Although it can be effective, it comes with its considerations, primarily that it's costly and the long-term side effects are unknown. Although this particular injection reduces hunger, it does do little for behavior modification. GLP-1s also have a high discontinuation rate. Recent studies show over 30% of users quit within the first month, and roughly 42% of users achieve clinical success by 12 weeks. So that's kind of just laying it out. I think all of these are really good options in the portfolio, and they're really important to know because each option is going to be a great solution for a particular patient, but it's not one size fit all when it comes to weight loss in regards to how the patient envisions their journey. So as I lay them all out side by side, there's one notable thing that I would like to pull from this landscape. The common theme among minimally invasive options today is that in order to be a true player, you need to achieve 15% total body weight loss. As you can see in the chart here, Spatz is at 15%, ESG is at 15%, and the injections are at 15%. But where the Spatz balloon particularly shines is the success rate and the long-term success of keeping that weight off, with 76.6% of patients after 2 years of removal maintaining 10% TBL or more. So with those two factors in mind, it does make it a powerful solution as a treatment option for what's available in the minimally invasive portfolio. That being said, I want to hand it over to my co-presenter to go over the role of intragastric balloons and really dive into them with the hat on as an experienced dietitian. So, Caitlin, I'd love to hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Christy. So, as we know, the intragastric balloons, the Spatz balloon, really enhances those feelings of fullness. It delays gastric emptying. And so, therefore, patients feel full faster and they can stay full, feeling full longer, which allows their brain and their stomach to more or less kind of reset as in the sense of what it feels like to feel full. So it can be a really great tool to kind of reprogram the brain. And the initial side effects like nausea and vomiting are common, but they're really manageable. And with proper diet instruction and follow up, we can usually get patients through those not as desirable side effects and get them feeling back to normal sooner rather than later. And again, what stands out so much with the Spatz3 balloon is its adjustable design. As Christy mentioned, some patients have a really tough time adjusting to the balloon initially. And, if it was something like an Orbera balloon that was placed, the balloon would have to be removed. Whereas with the Spatz balloon, the provider can go in and decrease the size of the balloon to decrease those non-desirable side effects, and the patient can continue on their weight loss journey. So that is a huge benefit to having the Spatz balloon on board. Now, that being said, there are some phases to address with the balloon. So, the initial phase or phase one tends to last for the first 2 to 7 days after the balloon is placed. This is where your patients are going to experience a good amount of nausea, maybe some vomiting, most likely some spasms. At this point, patients are really in survival mode, and the focus is managing these symptoms and minimizing the symptoms. And this is just a natural process that the body has in response to the balloon being placed. In this phase one, the balloon does all the work, and this is where patients are going to see the most dramatic weight loss. I like to remind patients that this phase is where they are surviving. They are not yet thriving. We will get them to be thriving, but right now we just have to get them through these first few days. They are provided with the necessary medications to take as needed to get them through the nausea, the spasms, and they also have the support of our clinic through daily monitoring. Usually, this is by phone call with the medical assistants. And this is just, a simple way for us to show our support and check in on them those first 3 to 5 days to see how their symptoms are being managed, offer encouraging words, slow and steady in terms of drinking and getting used to how liquids feel on the stomach now with the balloon in there. Are they meeting their fluid goals? If not, how close are they? If they're not close to meeting those goals, do they need to come in and get some IV fluids to kind of tide them over? How many protein shakes are they able to drink? And really, again, encouraging them that this will get easier. This is just a phase. It won't be like this forever. And it's all very much part of the process. When they feel those words of encouragement, they tend to, remember why they did this and what their long-term goal is. So eventually we get them to kind of transition into phase two. This varies a little bit from person to person, anywhere from that 10 to 14 day mark. The body starts to accommodate the balloon. Again, every body is different, so some people have this phase two start more so around the day 5 mark. But what this is distinguished by is patients are not having that nausea, they're not having the spasms, they're feeling like they can do this. Okay, we got them past that survival mode. They're learning how it feels to drink, they're learning their limits so they're not uncomfortable. They're starting to pay attention to the signals that the balloon can give when the stomach is starting to actually feel full. And so for our clinic, we tend to keep patients on liquids for the second week just because we don't want to rush it. They're finally starting to feel good. We want to keep them on liquids so, again, they can pay attention to those signals that the balloon is giving them that they're full. And what I can tell you from personal experience is when patients tell me, oh, yeah, I got my protein shakes and my liquids in for the last 2 days, I'm feeling great. Can I start soft foods? And I usually say, let's, hold off. Let's stick with the liquids. Let's give your body a little bit more time to adjust. I will say 10 times out of 10, when people decide to advance on their own, when they're feeling that way, they end up taking a few steps backwards and they experience some really unpleasant symptoms, nausea, vomiting when they advance too soon. So, it's a good reminder to just be in that patient's ear, reminding them that this is very much a process and it's not a race. So we want to do this the right way, use the balloon as a tool and really use it to help remember what those signals are to be feeling full. So, as a dietitian, of course, providing that guidance for diet advancement and just eating guidelines is really important. As we all know, it's very challenging to get patients to stick to a dietary guideline of any kind. If it were easy, we could write a meal plan for everyone and send them on their way, and they would lose every pound they want to lose. But it's not that easy. In my role, I make it my goal to provide very easy to follow dietary instruction, keep it simple, provide a list of approved foods for their specific diet that they're on, suggested timing for meals. This is really important. How much should they eat and when? Because with the balloon, if people are trying to eat and drink at the same time as we typically would without a balloon, there just isn't room in there and they can feel very uncomfortable. So we want to make sure that, for example, their meals are spaced out with enough time in between so they can really focus on their hydration status in between their meals. So when they're sitting down to eat, they can really pay attention to how that food is making them feel. So it's a lot to manage, and having clear guidance and guidelines makes all the difference for this process. So I've mentioned it, throughout this little talk here about signal recognition. And so, this is a really good reminder for patients that this balloon is a tool. It's not going to do all the work for them. The balloon is really a guide. It provides those subtle signals, sometimes not so subtle, depending on the patient, that they're starting to feel full and they need to slow down. Things like smelly burps are very common, bloating, mild infrequent symptoms are what people experience when the food is just kind of accumulating and sitting there. So it's really important to educate the patients about what these signals mean to avoid having these undesirable outcomes. So this is a little bit of a trial and error period for each patient. Certain people tolerate different things. So we usually get patients to kind of transition back to more regular textured foods around the 3 to 4 week mark after the balloon has been inserted. But even at that time, certain foods tend to give people some issues. Certain proteins, generally your high fiber foods, can cause people some issues. For whatever reason, raw salad greens, lettuce, and spinach tend to be really tough for people to eat with the balloon, but not everybody, and everybody is so different. So, you really have to, remind patients that, they're going to have to do a little bit of trial and error with this balloon in their belly. It's not the same belly that it was, 4 weeks prior. And that we really, again, we want to use the balloon as a tool to help them create new eating habits, learn some new portion sizing, and recognize when they are truly feeling full and avoiding that overeating feeling. Now, if patients are not paying attention to those signals, the symptoms will definitely escalate. And this is for what patients will experience if they're ignoring what we just talked about. They're ignoring the smelly burps, they're ignoring the nausea. They can eventually become more severe, and then they're having vomiting and heartburn. And the idea is that these symptoms are a deterrent against overeating or eating foods that trigger these. So this is again where you just have to have a conversation with your patient. I was talking to a gentleman a couple weeks ago, and he had the Spatz balloon place, and he was loving it. He was losing some great weight. He said, "This is awesome. Every time I eat, I'm throwing it back up. I'm losing all the weight." And I was like, okay. I was like, well, let's slow it down here. That's not the goal of the balloon. The balloon is to help you make better choices and avoid those bad side effects. We don't want you throwing up. We want you to lose weight the healthy way. And create some new behaviors that you can carry on after the balloon eventually comes out. So, managing expectations, something I tell all of my patients is eating should not hurt or be uncomfortable. If you are having discomfort or pain associated with eating, it's a really good idea to take a look at what are you eating? How much are you eating? When are you eating? A big issue with these intragastric balloon patients is, they'll tell me, oh my gosh, the reflux is so bad. I haven't been able to sleep in my bed all week. I've been sleeping in the recliner. So they're more upright. Or I'm nauseated every morning when I wake up. It's terrible. And so, then it becomes kind of a trial and error as to what are they eating for dinner? When are they eating dinner? And when are they trying to lay down? Because the balloon is delaying gastric emptying, so that food sits in the stomach longer. And if they're eating too close to bedtime, that can precipitate some of these symptoms. So it's, just having that open dialogue with your patients and trying to gather as much information and then trial and error. And, maybe let's try eating dinner earlier, or, let's push all of your meals a little bit earlier so that you don't have that accumulation of food towards the end of the day, so you can go lay down for bed. So, it's just about kind of addressing, what pops up. So, as we know, behavior modification is the goal, and it's really, really hard. So, I think of myself in many instances as a sort of cheerleader for a lot of my patients, encouraging them that though it is challenging, these behavior modifications are essential, not only for their, their well-being while the balloon is placed, but also for implementing behavior modification long-term after the balloon is removed. Unfortunately, we don't have a psychologist or mental health professional on staff with us, but I do encourage almost all of my patients to take a look at their insurance benefits, see what they have available to them in terms of a therapist or a psychologist, because monitoring or modifying behaviors is really tough. And how we think about food and that relationship we have with food, that's not something that's going to be totally overhauled in 8 months. It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of work. And so, definitely, not overlooking the mental side of this is can be very game changing for a lot of these patients. So just being their cheerleader in their corner, helping them get any further support that they may need as they embark on these lifestyle changes. So, that ongoing support and re-education is what it's all about. And I can't emphasize enough the re-education piece and the reiteration piece. But what we know is, in this phase two, when they're kind of eating more normal foods, that re-education is really necessary, especially when the balloon's intensity starts to decrease a little bit. And so people get really worried. They say, "Oh, I'm not feeling full like I used to. What am I doing wrong?" And so then it's usually a matter of, well, what are you eating? How often are you eating? Some of this is normal. The body gets used to the balloon in there. And, so again, providing that continuous education, reassessing what diet choices are they making? Are they choosing foods that just digest quicker, or could they benefit from an up adjustment? Could they benefit from that balloon being made a little bit larger so they have a little bit more feeling of that restriction? But something else that I like to speak to patients about is, you didn't have this balloon placed to eat, just this much at every meal. You had this balloon placed to help you think differently about food, to help you make a different grocery list, to prepare different types of meals. So remembering again, kind of what the long-term goals are, and managing those expectations of results with the patient as well. Post removal. This is a really scary time period for a lot of patients. I hear so many people tell me like they don't want it to come out. They are so terrified of regaining all of the weight that they've lost. And so this is where our ongoing follow-up is so vital after the balloon comes out. So this transition after removal is really all about maintaining the achieved weight loss. And the way to do that is to continually adhere to those healthy habits and lifestyle changes they've been working on this whole time while the balloon was in. And so again, this is where I kind of come in as the cheerleader and also just reiterate, some expectations and what we do expect. There are a lot of people who think the balloon's going to come out and they're going to keep losing weight. And so, if that's the case, we really have to manage that expectation of, well, though it's not impossible, it's highly unlikely to see continued weight loss when the balloon comes out because the capacity to eat will be larger. The goal once the balloon comes out is actually to maintain the weight loss you have achieved. So, again, having that conversation, managing the expectations, being that source of support and encouragement is really, really important as they continue on this lifestyle change journey, because it doesn't just end when the balloon comes out. So, kind of to summarize, what the role of the dietitian is to provide, again, those realistic goals, manage expectations. I think that's really huge. A lot of people think, oh, the balloon is going to be this. This is the one thing that's different. I can keep everything else the same, and I'm going to get where I want to go. And that's not usually the case. And so, having that dialogue with your patients and really emphasizing that this balloon is a tool. It's going to work with you. It's not going to do all of the work for you. So those conversations, helping your patients interpret the signals. Some people don't recognize that reflux is a sign that they're just too full. So helping them understand that, this is what that could mean. Um, being a guide and a source of support as they transition through the dietary phases is also crucial because, as I mentioned earlier, if people try to advance too soon back to soft foods or regular foods, eh, they're not going to have a good time. Their experience is going to be tainted. So we want to make sure they do it the right way, the safe way. And then, again, encouraging behavior modification, being that source of support, and their cheerleader through this because it is hard. And that's where that consistent follow-up is just so important because, I like to celebrate even the little wins. They come to me, I only lost 3 pounds this month. I'm like, 3 pounds this month is amazing. How many months ago were you trying to lose 3 pounds and you couldn't even lose one? So it's about putting things in perspective and being on their team, providing that re-education, that repetition. If anything I've learned is you can say things in different ways multiple times. You can say the same thing 12 times, but it takes the 13th time for them to actually hear it. And that doesn't just go for, this job, but, think about any other facet of your life. We have to hear things over and over again, sometimes for it to click. So, being that voice and being that support and providing that re-education is really crucial as well to the success while the balloon is in, but also, helping them sustain all of those changes that they made and the weight that they did lose post balloon removal. So that's what I have to share, Christy. I will toss it back to you.
Thank you, Caitlin. That was wonderful. I appreciate you taking us through all of that knowledge and all those talking points. I do have a question. When you're working with your Spatz patients, what does a typical follow-up schedule look like? How often are you meeting with them?
Great question. So I meet with them usually about a week before the balloon is scheduled to be placed. And that's where I kind of review, what to expect in those first few days, the first couple weeks. That's where we talk about the clear liquid diet and the full liquid diet. And then I meet with them again about 2 weeks after the balloon has been placed. And as long as things are going well with the clear liquids and the full liquids, then we'll advance them to soft foods. They're on the soft diet for another 2 weeks, and then I meet with them again when their diet changes to regular. So in the beginning there, I'm meeting with them every time the diet changes, and then after that, it's usually a monthly check-in, kind of, how are foods going? What are you tolerating, not tolerating? What questions or concerns do you have? And sometimes it is just a way for them to hold themselves accountable as well. Sometimes they don't need anything from me. But that's kind of how it works in our clinic, and I know different clinics work differently. Our medical assistants are a lot more involved those very first days, checking in on them and their fluid intake. So that's where that touch point comes in. So they have a lot of support from us in the very beginning, and then even throughout the journey.
That's great. Thank you. And there was one other thing I noted in your conversation was that you help the patient identify and re-educate when they feel the balloon strength is kind of subsiding a bit. Do you help collaborate with the doctors when placing a Spatz balloon to identify if it's a good time to talk about adjustment potentially?
So yeah, so they're on our radar. We
Mhm.
usually know when they're around that 3 to 4 month mark. And so that's when I'll usually kind of put the bug in their ear that, hey, if you want to make an adjustment to the balloon, we're going to want to do it, in this next month or so. Because I'm the one that has the most frequent touch points, then I would just, let our clinic staff know, oh, this patient is interested in an up adjustment, or this patient is not interested in an up adjustment. So that's kind of where I come in because I do see them more periodically.
Amazing. Thank you for that. I appreciate all your expertise and knowledge. Quite wisdom you have on new patients. So let's go ahead and continue with the conversation. We learned a lot about the landscape and the three different procedures that are present for minimally invasive solutions for weight loss. And Caitlin took us on a wonderful journey through understanding how to support and the critical role of a dietitian, particularly with the gastric balloon. But I want to talk about the underlying opportunity that we have for dietitians to really align their business and their earnings with the rising demand for minimally invasive procedures, and particularly the Spatz intragastric balloon. Partnering with Spatz and kind of us moving into talking about our referral program, I think is a great way to think about passively increasing your passive revenue and attracting new patients, enhancing visibility for your individual businesses, or if you work with a hospital or if a physician, and also giving awareness to the different services in the field right now. So I believe that collaboration in this space is going to foster financial growth and benefit not only the dietitians and the physicians, but we can drive better patient outcomes as well. Education is king. So let's talk a little bit more about the Spatz program and how it could affect your income passively. So here's just a quick graph introducing you of the mutual benefit of what the Spatz referral program is for dietitians. And this program is as easy as a click. What we offer is $555 for each new referral that joins the Spatz family. And the process is really straightforward. The goal is the growth potential for you is uncapped. And this could really impact not just your network and your relationships with physicians, but if you take ownership in, the education and the awareness of this, it could really help continue to expand your network and hopefully attract new patients to your nutrition services. So this passive revenue is, the main benefit of this. And you can see here how it quickly multiplies. A single referral, as I suggested, results in $555. But you can see if you climb up to 2, 4, or 6 referrals, how you can make a pretty substantial passive revenue with participating in this program. So again, the goal of the program is to be easy and to encourage awareness and collaboration from everyone in the field of weight loss. So it's as simple as literally clicking the link in this email invitation after you watch this webinar and creating a free account. Spatz has collaborated with Referral Rock, and we give each dietitian their own dashboard after you create an account. So you can actually view your status of your referrals and earn rewards seamlessly. The reward in particular is broken up into 2 segments. The first is an instant $25 reward as soon as you refer somebody to Spatz and they have a meeting with us. And if they become a partner, then you will receive the additional $530. So we pay this out either PayPal or Zelle, and we will send direct cash reward to any participants in the Spatz referral program. But this is a quick screenshot. As you can see that you have the ability to achieve unlimited earnings and that you have the ability to track where they're at in the process to make sure that everything is streamlined directly to you. Again, this is to help boost awareness, not just for the solution that the Spatz balloon offers in minimally invasive weight loss procedures, but overall, I think education in general. So a good way to share this program is with, peers, potential patients, and even doctors in your network who think they might be offering the Spatz balloon to a patient. By sharing education, you can collaborate and even offer up your services potentially to become a dietitian for those patients for that particular position. So it's a really nice full circle to boost awareness and ultimately strengthen your networks. The opportunity also to receive advanced training. Beyond this webinar today, we just touched kind of the tip of the iceberg on giving you highlights as to how to support your Spatz patient. But we have a really robust online learning system that we can certainly train you and certify you if you are going to be part of our reward program and potentially working with patients that will refer you Spatz patients that had the procedure for nutrition counseling and dietitian support. So we have unlimited training for our dietitians, and we also have a certification program that you can get and print and be able to have that in your office as a certified Spatz coach for coaching balloon patients. So that's an additional perk to have the knowledge directly from the company. And then last but not least, this is a quick email template. Once you sign on and register and have access to your dashboard, it generates a exclusive link for you to be easy to share via email any social platform, or even text message. You can customize your message and make it as simple as, hey, I think you'd be interested in this new device. Would love to connect you with them to learn more. And I'm here to support your patients if you decide to offer this treatment solution for weight loss. And I think that's a really great way to, again, foster those relationships. So in a nutshell, that's our referral program. I'm happy that we had the time to join today to not only talk about the referral program, but most importantly, understand the current landscape of minimally invasive procedures and really how the Spatz balloon is elevated in regards to the most impactful, not only initial weight loss, but long-term success. So that being said, I'd like to open it up for questions, but because this webinar is on demand, I will link my email in the message of which you received the webinar. It's Christy@spatzmedical.com, and you can reach out to me at any time if you have a question for me particularly or for Caitlin as it relates to any of the talking points she discussed. I'm happy to forward any questions and perhaps connect if you need further conversation. But our goal today is to empower and to educate and to ultimately make sure that everyone knows all of the resources at their fingertips when it comes to this topic. So thank you for joining our webinar, and I look forward to our future collaboration. It was my pleasure. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thanks, Christy.